This is the Mighty Books Podcast. This week's featured author is Ron Collier. Ron is an author, professional keynote speaker, business management and sales consultant, and entrepreneur. Over the past 35 years, he has trained and consulted with over 6,000 small businesses in North America and has been a keynote speaker at many national organizations. He helps small businesses achieve the profitability they deserve. He received his PhD from Purdue University and resides in Austin, Texas, with his wife near their children. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, we have Ron Collier. Ron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to meet with me. Today, we're here to talk about your book. For everyone who has not at least read the cover art, what is the title of your book?
It is called Profit is an Attitude, and the subtitle is Strategies to Optimize Profits.
Now, what is it about? It definitely sounds businessy.
It's very businessy. Actually, it's written specifically for small businesses, and it really tells them how to be successful in running a small business. All the different successes I've come across being a consultant, for almost 35 years with small business.
Now, what exactly inspired you to say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and torture myself by writing a book? Because I love writing books, but it's a lot of work.
Well, what I find with most small businesses is that they enter their small business because they have a particular skill or something. Just an example I might use is that you may be a very, very good baker. And because of that, you say, well, gosh, I don't have to work for someone. I'll just do this myself. I'll open my own bakery. But what the fallacy is that just because you have a good skill, in perhaps baking, that doesn't mean that skill transfers over to running a bakery business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I find in so many instances when I go into companies. I find that they're very, very good at what they do, but they can't translate that to actually running a business. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to put down the things within the book that I think are the most important things that I've learned over the 35 years and what businesses need to put into place, what to measure, things like that, so that they can be successful.
So what different things do you look at when you walk into a business, you have a client who needs assistance with getting things going or improving, profitability? What are some things you look at?
Well, really, there's three areas of the business. I call it the three M's of any small business. And the very first thing is simply motivation. It may sound crazy. That's one reason why I titled my book "Profit is an Attitude." But people actually go to work every day. Owners go to work every day and are really not motivated to do what needs to be done to make a profit. Yeah. I always say their greatest competitor is in the mirror.
Yeah.
So they're not really, if you don't motivate yourself, then it's very, very difficult to motivate your employees. And of course, it's very, very difficult to motivate your customers.
Sure.
Hey, I look for motivation and see exactly what they're doing. And if they're really putting forth the effort to do what they need to do. And then number two, I look at the money side. No matter if you're a small company, a large company, money is the bottom line. If you're not making a profit, you're not going to do what needs to be done for your customers and employees, and certainly not for your family. If you're not able to pay yourself in the business, reap a reward, because certainly by owning your own company, you should be able to make more money, mm-hmm. provide more products and services than you would by working for someone else. So, right. So I look at the money side. And then third is what I really call the metrics, because in every small business, you need to be able to measure exactly what's done. And that's an old adage, why do something if it can't be measured? So what I have found in a small business is that we need to open the doors at the first of every month, and really we sort of close the doors at the end of every month. So run your business on a monthly basis. And then at the end of the month, measure those things that need to be measured to see if you're moving in the right direction. Obviously, if you've made money, if things have gone well, this particular month, then let's put in play the same kinds of things that you've done this month. Let's transfer it to the next month, 6 months in the future, a year in the future. And no, I've always said, if you're making money this month, you make money every month, you'll make money for the whole year.
So yeah, I've noticed with a lot of businesses where you have, so do you work with primarily like folks who have they're the only owner, or is it like multiple owners? If you, or I'm sure you've seen both of that.
I really have seen both, but primarily the businesses that I've worked with are single owners, or they're probably small companies that are probably less than 2 million in sales.
Okay.
Typically, they're family owned in one respect, maybe just a sole proprietor or a corporation, but they're fairly held very tightly. That's one of the other issues is that being pushed forward, because we know in small business you can't do everything yourself. And that's really what many small businesses try to do. And I kind of call that the first wall, in that whenever you start a small business, at some point in time, you have to make the decision, I've got to hire someone. Someone has got to help me, because I cannot be everything to everyone. I can't be the manager. I can't be the technician doing the work. And I certainly can't be an entrepreneur that's going and trying to get the work. I can't do all three.
Yeah.
And really the expertise of the small business owner is probably being the entrepreneur. One of the key things that they need to do is hire someone to help them to assume that managerial role, maybe in accounting or office work, and then actually someone to go do the work that they in turn are having the free time then to go out and get.
Yeah, no, I've seen that with a lot of folks. They start out wanting to do everything, and it's actually the same way with book writing. I notice a lot of authors, they want to do everything themselves. It's like, that's admirable. However, at the end of the day, we're not experts in everything. It's just not physically, mentally possible to be experts in everything. Not to mention just the sheer time factor here. When you're talking about running a business where, you have to look at your overhead, you have to look at the monthly bills and your growth, your advertising. There's a lot of parts to this that are ongoing constantly. You just need more bodies, more competent bodies to do the work. So I imagine talking an owner down from relinquishing that power and say you need to delegate it. I'm sure you've had some pretty interesting conversations with owners.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. One event that I'll say is I went and was doing an on-site evaluation of a company in Florida. And almost the first day, the owner said, okay, what did you find? What's going on? And I always say to my clients, don't ask me any questions, but I'm not going to answer them. Well, because I don't have all the data. You can't really answer, because I don't want to give them something. I don't want to say, yeah, everything is fine, and then 2 days later find something wrong. So I said, just wait. And with the gentleman was very, very kind and had me actually stay at his house with his wife and new baby. And so I would go in during the morning, talk to people, evaluate things, and would go back, have dinner with he and his wife and things like that. So, but anyway, the third night we were having dinner, and so he finally asked me the question. He said, "Okay, I think you've been here 3 days. What is the biggest problem in my business?" And I said, "You need to look in the mirror." I said, "It's you." He said, "You're." I said, "No." And I said, "The problem is that you've got very, very good people, but you want to have your finger in everything. You want to be kind of like a helicopter manager, and they have everything set. Everything is ready to go. You've got good people, and then you enter the office. And I always say you enter the office with that great big spoon over your shoulder. You start stirring the pot, and it's all frustrating. You're saying, well, wait a minute, we can't send Joe to Mrs. Jones's house. We need to send them to Mary's house because she goes to my church. So it's just like this." And I said, "So, you need to back off and promise me you won't go to the office till like 11 o'clock in the morning. Go play golf, stay here with your wife, enjoy your baby. But I said, you've got good people, back off."
Mm-hmm.
Why do you hire people if you're not going to let them do the job that you hire them to do? And that's the main thing with small business owners is you hire people to do the work you don't want to do, but you also hire people to do the work that you can't do, that you're not capable of doing. And that's why, the small businesses, I always say to everyone, and it happens in most small businesses, they are going out and doing the actual work during the day. They're coming home at 8 o'clock at night and trying to do all their accounting and trying to do all their marketing. And before long, of course, they're working 60 hours a week and really just barely paying the bills. And that will continue and continue and continue. And I remember another incident where a gentleman called me. It was like on a Sunday, and he said, "Hey, can you, are you a business consultant?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "I'm like 62 years old. I employ my two sons in the business. We barely can make it. I mean, and right now we work, like 12 hours a day, even Saturday mornings. What should I do?" And I said, "Well, I guess you should just work more." And then, of course, I stepped back and I said, "No, no, 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 no. I was kidding." But I said, that's the problem. What you're doing is you're working too much. And you really need to be able in a small business to work that 40 to 50-hour week. And that's certainly attainable without a problem. But if you have other people doing those things, and once again, if you're running your business correctly. Another adage that I say all the time is, if you're too busy, you're too low. And that's usually true. Your pricing is out of whack, and you may be seeing a lot of people, but you're not making any money. I can go on 5 service calls and make $100, or I can go on 3 service calls and make $100. I can work 10 hours a day and make $100, or I can work 6 hours a day and make $100. Which one do you want? And the problem is that your pricing. I think many small businesses need to understand that your pricing also reflects the customers you get. If you want to charge $50, that's fine, $50 an hour for your service, but you'll get $50 an hour customers. You won't get $100 an hour customers. And so one of the key issues in business is time management, managing your time, but having other people help you manage the time.
Yeah, I've found with a lot of things, it's priority. It's you, and with business, I find that what are you worth? What is your time worth? Because if people start looking at time as money, they're going to see it differently. They're going to go, well, I have only 24 hours in a day. I have to sleep for at least, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of that. I would like to see family. So when you start budgeting your time, it makes sense to, and you have to come to that realization. You cannot do everything. It's just not possible. It's not possible to do everything.
No, that's correct. It's not possible to do everything. And once also too, the more you work, more than likely, you're not doing as good a job as you should be doing. And so that hurts everything. So,
and then I'll circle back to what you were talking about earlier. Just having the trust in your people is, it's better for the person who's running the business, because then they aren't there all the time. And B, the morale of the company will stay high because the people who are working go, my boss trusts me to do a good job. He checks in on me like our normal stated meetings just to check on the progress. And if there's a problem, I go to him and we find a solution. But other than that, it's kind of like driving a car. I don't care, as long as we're driving, we're going. Until there's a problem, then I'll put my, like you said, the spoon in and start stirring things around. But until that, as long as the car is driving and we're doing everything it's supposed to do, there's no reason to interact so harshly with everything.
Well, and I think you make the very good point, is that if I'm going to hire people to do a job, then I've got to trust them to do that job. If I provided the training and I provided the motivation, then, as I've told many of my clients, just back off. Let them. Well, they really need to succeed or fail, themselves. That's what they need to do. You can't stand there all the time. You can't call them every 15 minutes and look at them and see what's going on. Number one, you don't allowing them to succeed or fail, because they will, but that's okay. That's a learning tool. Mm-hmm. I also go back to the analogy of our children. You say to children, don't touch that, it's hot. Well, you know what's going to happen. And we don't want it to happen. We don't want it to happen, but we know we can't stand there all the time, every time, 24 hours a day, and be sure that they don't touch that object that's hot, because it's going to happen. And then once again, of course, they learn.
Uh-huh.
So many times we need to treat employees that way, but just give them the task, be sure they're well trained, leave them alone, and give them parameters, tell them exactly what you need to do with SMART goals, and then back off and let them perform for you. That's why you hired them.
Exactly. And I like the idea of, you got trial and error, but with employees, learning through failure is a fabulous teacher. Failure is an incredible teacher. I can't tell you how many times I have learned wonderful lessons because I screwed up the first couple of times, and then I never made the mistake again, because that it just so cemented in my brain. And then at that point, the boss now has an experienced worker who won't want to make that same mistake twice, and maybe actually becomes, gives sage wisdom, sage advice to folks, and they become an asset. Yes, they screwed up, maybe they lost some money for you, but that knowledge gained is priceless at that point in time.
And many owners, make the mistake that they what they do is they do the work for them. For example, if I can't repair something, for example, as an employee, well, they just come and do it for me. But so what actually happened is, of course, I've learned nothing. What the owner has actually taught me is, well, Ron, if you have a problem, just call me, I'll come fix it, instead of training them to fix it themselves.
Yeah, I'm all about trying to, level out the knowledge there. Where I've worked, we've had, what do you call it? Like tribal knowledge. So only a certain amount of people have the knowledge on certain systems or products or, equipment. But I hated tribal knowledge. When I came in, I'm like, no, that makes no sense, because then you have to, like, I take it from my own. What if I'm the only one who knows this? Now you're bugging me about having to come in to work more, taking time out away from other projects, other important things, just to fix this one item. I don't like that. I want to tell everybody how this works and become at least half competent that we can at least troubleshoot and figure out what the problem is. So if anything, we've at least knocked out a few steps. So we're saving time. Then later you don't have to bug me. We just fix it and you keep going.
That's correct.
It's just, to me, it's just oiling the machine properly. I mean,
Surely, that's exactly correct, because really, as a small business owner, I really want to spend less and less time in my business, because I know other people are doing what needs to be done. Spending more time in the business, then there are issues. There's a problem.
I totally agree with that. So in your book, you have a huge section on attitude. Can you talk a little bit about just the attitude of a business owner or a consultant, perhaps?
Well, yeah, as like I say, that was the reason I titled my book "Profit is an Attitude," because the attitude of the owner is what actually transgresses and moves through the entire organization. So, what most small business owners don't understand is that everyone is watching them. The customers are watching them. They're seeing the customers are seeing how they are responded to by the owner. Every employee sees exactly how you're dressed. They see how you drive. They see how you act with customers over the phone, and they want to be involved with a company that has that kind of positive vibe. I've always said that you can walk into a company and within about 10 minutes really know if they're profitable or not. And over my 35 years, I found that to be correct 99% of the time.
Wow.
See that like sewing machine that's just running. Everyone is happy to be there. They're engaging. There's teamwork. And all that is really through the motivation of the owner, because he provides that. So not only is he promoting himself to develop a company that is long term, because so many people develop a company and it dies with them. There is no company, there's a person. Very good people who motivate, they motivate their employees to do well. They train them regularly. They have managers so that they don't have to manage. And they really develop a company culture where people, really like to come to work. So many times today, of course, in this environment, it's difficult to find people. But the thing about it is, if you develop the right kind of atmosphere, then you'll attract those people, because people in your company will attract their friends, their relatives, people like that to come to work. You want that positive attitude. You want that, what I call the profit attitude, because really that's what drives every company. Because and also too, as an owner, I want to move that positive attitude. I've always said that we hire people for careers. We never hire them for jobs. So many times when a person comes in, we say, well, thank you for joining the company. You're going to make $20 an hour, and this is what you're going to do. But we never tell them that if they're there for 3 years, they'll be making $40 an hour. We never show them the pathway to success. And that's one of the very positive things that owners need to do, to show them that, look, I'm not hiring you for a month. I'm hiring you for 20 years.
Right.
If you do these things within the company, you can move from $20 an hour to $40 an hour. And the employee says, really? Well, and that's why it's not just a job with a numerical value. You need to always show your employees the package that comes with it. I think that's what's very, very important.
Future vision.
Right.
Yeah. No, I like that. I work for one of the shipyards out here, and that's actually something they do. Is when you first come in, they say, here's your pathway to your first year. At that point, then they show you another program that keeps you in for 4 more years. And then after that, they say you can do this, which is almost just, go away an extra 10 years. And by that point, you're, close to retirement at that point. You're vested. You have all these benefits. They look at retirement right from the get-go. So they go, this is a start to finish job for a career. This is a start to finish career. And you can do a lot of work and a lot of different things to enhance your knowledge, become basically a better person. You can take care of your family. They really do go into it. And that the selling points, I'm going to say.
No, but you're exactly correct, because I think in so many businesses, there's a lot of misinformation. I'll take your business, for example, the shipyard. People may say, well, gosh, I don't want to go to work for the shipyard because they pay $10 an hour. And you're going to say, wait a second, where'd you hear that? But if employees are out there thinking that the shipyard or a particular job has not very good benefits, if it's not even very good pay, why would they even consider it?
Right.
One thing is that we need to be sure that we're communicating with everyone exactly what the potential is, and like I say, we want to talk about the package for coming to work to a small business.
So when you come into when you visit up a client and you go there, you take your 3-4 days, do you have strategies that translate to every business, or does it depend on the business?
Well, it certainly depends upon the business. What we do initially before we ever go into a company, in a small company, it could be a 1-day visit. It could be up to 4 or 5, depending on the size of the company. But the very first thing that we do is we set a financial baseline, because we need to figure out exactly where they are, because the financial side of the business is really the most important. I can't talk about hiring personnel if you're not making money. So the very first thing we do is we run about a 14-page financial analysis through QuickBooks, and we do this automatically, so that our clients don't have to do anything. We go into QuickBooks, we pull the data, we print a 14-page report, and we look at 13 typical measurements that are for all small businesses. So it makes no difference what the small business is. We run the report based upon their industry data. All companies have what's called a NAICS code, and that's called the North American Industry Classification System. The IRS many years ago had what was called an SIC code, and every time you filled out your tax return, that's what was put on there. So that's why if you ran a bakery, that way they would compare your tax return to another bakery. And they changed that with the onset of the internet, because the internet just exploded, and now there weren't 3 different kinds of bakeries, there were 15. So they couldn't stand the old system wouldn't work. So they established the NAICS system. So what we do is we pull all the data and figure out exactly what they are through the NAICS code. And then we compare their data that we pulled to the top 10% of the industry and show them exactly where they are. So maybe they're from 30%, they're in the top 5%. And we look at 13 different metrics. And then we, of course, walk them through, and that becomes our baseline and say, okay, you're in the bottom 30% of the industry in pricing. So what do we need to do to get that up into to the upper 10%? Inventory control or personnel or accounts receivable or cash flow. So once we have those 13 metrics, then we design a business plan for those companies. We continue to do that on a monthly basis because once we develop the business plan, we want to keep running the metrics to see if they're moving closer to the 10% top industry or if they're moving down.
So you're basically putting your finger on the pulse and seeing how healthy they are at that point.
That is correct, because that's what we really have to do is determine the financial health of the business and change pricing, for example, change costing. Maybe they have too many personnel, but that's the basis, is the financial side of the business. Is the business making money? Is the owner making money? The employees are making money? Are we taking care of the customer correctly? Then from that point forward, once we do the financial review, then we began looking in at operations.
And I'm sure that's kind of hard for some folks who come in there and it's a very emotional thing. I mean, like finances can be a very touchy subject for folks, and people have a hard time distinguishing between personal and work or financial and work. And I'm assuming, have you had hard conversations with people about that? Like, you need to, you have to reduce this because you hired too many people. You had a bleeding heart for this person. You want to give them money, but now your business is suffering. You have to look at the black and white. There's no gray here.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why they hire me to come in, because I think they've gotten to the point that I think what's interesting in most small businesses, they think they have financial issues because they're not selling enough. So that's their very first thing is that, well, I'm not making enough money, so I need to work nights. No, I'm not making enough money, I need to work Saturday. No, I'm not making enough money, so I need to work Sunday. And so what happens is that is their thought process is, I don't have enough customers, I don't have enough sales, which most of the time is totally inaccurate. It's totally inaccurate. Really, typically what I find in business has to do with pricing. Whenever you look at many companies, this is just an example, but like a 3% price increase sometimes has the same effect as like a 67% sales increase. To increase sales 67% or raise your price 3%.
Wow.
And whenever we do that with them, we say, oh my gosh. And I mean, anyone can do a 3% price increase. I mean, it makes no difference what you're doing. That's a no-brainer. And then typically what we recommend is this price increase. It may not be 3%, but pricing tends to get the financials better in line. And so we particularly look at pricing strategies every 6 months. I'm not saying that we suggest they go up every 6 months, 3%. It may be $1, it may be 5%, but every 6 months, what small businesses need to understand is their cost increase. Think of gasoline right now. Think of the cost of labor. Think of the cost of rent. Those are constantly going up every 6 months. Just giving a raise. Every time we give a raise to an employee, we lose money on the bottom line. So how do we compensate for that?
Mm-hmm.
We don't do it every 6 months, then it gets to the point that we could be, I've told some people, you need to, you're so far behind, you need to raise your hourly rate $50 an hour. If you'd have listened to me or 5 years ago, we would have been raising it $2 an hour. See, so some people are to that point. There has to be very, very drastic measures taken. But if we're constantly looking at our business on a month-to-month basis, then we can make those changes that need to be made, and they can be very small, incremental ones.
Wow, that's incredible. And how many businesses have you consulted with?
Well, I've actually consulted. I've actually spoken with about 6,000 small businesses across North America, and then I've actually been inside probably about 20% of those, about 1,200,
That's incredible.
are from small companies that generate, two or 300,000 in sales to, I believe my largest one was about 57 million. And of course, they're all, they're all different. But what I find very interesting is that they really do exactly the same thing. Baking a cake is baking a cake. Now, there's a difference in baking one or baking 500, but they're still following the same recipe. They're still open 8 to 5 every day. They all have the same website. So a lot of the things are exactly the same. It's just the scaling that affects them. As you said earlier, if we grow too fast, we have a problem. If we grow too slow, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need that just kind of constant growth.
Typically, all businesses still go through the same. And as I said earlier, most businesses grow, plateau, grow, plateau, grow, plateau. And it's during the plateau phase is when really critical decisions have to be made. Do I hire someone or not hire someone? Do I hire a marketing firm or not hire a marketing firm? Do I really organize myself and hire managers and get myself under control or not? So, but no one really grows in a straight line. They typically grow and plateau. And at that point, they either do what needs to be done and move forward, or they don't and they move down.
So do you speak into groups as well, to companies?
Yes, I do. Companies actually, call me, and I may speak to a group of managers. I may typically I will speak maybe to a group of their customers. So maybe there's a distributor or maybe there's a manufacturer that has customers that are small businesses. And so I go in and I may give a workshop, I may give a breakout, I may do a keynote presentation at their national meeting, just talking about, all these things that we've been discussing about small business and how to make money. Businesses are very, very dedicated people and one of the most hardworking people I've ever seen. Yeah. But they just don't understand. They didn't go and get their business degree before they open that bakery or that heating and air conditioning company or whatever it may be. And that's really what they're lacking. And whenever they finally realize they need some business expertise, then that's when their business really takes off.
Yeah, you need, like we touched on before, just like it takes a village to raise a child, it really takes a village to run a company. In this case, you can't have the same person who is dedicated to making a good product be the same one who runs the books, be the same one who does the marketing. It's just a different skill set. It's a different
That's so true.
Mindset, attitude, all that has to go with. It's just how we are. It's how people are. And as soon as the entrepreneur, the business owner gets behind that notion, usually they do pretty well.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the owner of the business is the driver of the business, whether it's driven up or it's driven down. They are the ones who are making the critical decisions on growth, and they have to make the right decisions in order for their company to grow. Because really, they, as a company grows, the owner actually becomes less important because we have people actually doing all the work. They're still the coach. I always like that. You need to think of them as the coach. Whenever the game starts, coaching is over. You can't teach people to tackle, once the game starts. And so, but he's back there for strategy and things like that. That's what the owner, initially they're doing everything, but then they back off to a strategic position to say, okay, this is what I need to do to get more people or to motivate Joe or get more work. Because whenever you're inside the forest, it's hard to see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Now, so when you've done consulting, you've given them their financial plan, they're on their way to success. Let's say it's a year down the road. Do you accept phone calls again and just like, hey?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
no,
well, that's
we
good.
We usually communicate on a monthly basis. As I said earlier, I really want to see what's happening on a monthly basis. So many times, if we talk quarterly or we even talk yearly, it's difficult to keep them on track. So, I mean, they can do what they want, of course, but I really recommend usually a monthly phone call, and they send me information, and we can take a look and see where they're going. And because all of them really have or should have like monthly budgets, monthly cash flows, and we look at those and project them a year in advance. So, because I'm a big proponent on budgeting, but we have a budget that starts every month. So that's what we do. We always have 12 months out.
Wow.
So we're seeing if we're moving toward that goal.
Yeah, and I'm sure they really appreciate just having another person to kind of vindicate maybe decisions that they're doing, validate decisions that they're doing.
That's exactly correct. Exactly.
Yeah. Because I mean, I know just from doing, book stuff where I'm trying to make a decision on something, I had my coach with me and I work with him and like, here's what I want to do. Am I thinking the right direction? And he goes, yes. However, this little minor tweak here will elevate, whatever product you're working on or the book, for instance, in my case, the book, whatever you're working on. And I was like, okay, cool. So you having all that experience, I'm sure they absolutely love the fact that you've had so many years in and have done so much and seen mostly everything.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah. We can never say everything because every time we say we've seen everything, life decides to throw you a weird wrench. So at the end of the day, what do you hope people will learn from your book?
Well, I think the first thing is that they, as you and I have talked, one of the very first things that's most important is they can't be all things to all people. And most business owners have a real problem letting go. If you think about small businesses right now, it's not uncommon for all the calls to come to the owner's cell phone. And there's no way that I can actually be doing a job and at the same time be accepting calls from other customers. So I think the number one thing is you can't be all things to all people, and you've got to have help. You've got to be able to delegate, do what you do best, and then let other people take care of the rest. I think the second thing is the financial side of the business, because to me, that is the most important. And I know many businesses just get a profit and loss or a balance sheet, but then they just stick it in the drawer. No one ever explains it to them. They don't really know usually if they're making or losing money until the end of the year at tax time. If you lose money for a whole year, there's nothing you can do about it. So it's important to get monthly financials. It's important to do it correctly. And then after the monthly financials is the organization, because once again, you want to be organized. You really want all the calls coming through an office, and let the office, it's not that you can't be doing things, but let the office tell you what to do. See, everything should come through the office so it's manageable. Everything, all the customer calls, whether they're good calls, bad calls, whether they're scheduling or ordering, it all comes through one point. Then it's very, very easy to manage. Have a business plan and really decide, what you want to do, because most small businesses can grow about 20% a year if they have good information and good people. They can do that. Not a problem to double your business in about 4 years.
Wow. Well, if everyone here is who's listening in wants to get a copy of this awesome book, where can they do that?
Well, I appreciate that. They can, if they want a signed copy, I'd love to give them a signed copy. They can go to my website at www.collier, Collier, and then a dash or a hyphen, consulting.com. Or, of course, it can be ordered through any of the other houses like Amazon. If you'd like a signed copy, just go direct to my website.
Just go to his website. That's just a better place to go. Just do that. It's got a personal touch to it and everything. So it's great. And then I'm assuming if anyone actually has a small business or wants your consulting, experience, they can reach you on the website as well.
That is correct. They can go straight to the website, and we have a chat there. They also have phone numbers and contact information, email addresses, et cetera. And we'd be happy to work with them and talk to them and see what their needs are.
Fantastic. Well, Ron, I really appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule, meeting with me, talking to me. I learned quite a bit. It was a great conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Get online, go grab this book. It is very insightful. He's got so many years of experience. He knows what he's talking about. From then on, everyone have a fantastic day and keep on reading. Stay mighty, everybody.
Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.